Our next speaker is Dr. Abigail Joseph. Dr. Joseph is a unicorn. She has a PhD in computer science and a career that spans both technology and education. So she has this rare blend that she brings to her work of analytical thinking, creative problem solving, and reflection, which is what she's going to be speaking to us about today. Dr. Joseph is an innovation coach, a creativity consultant, and an educator who helps visionary professionals move from stuck to sparked. You know how the world rewards us for speed? You got to make a quick decision, you got to move fast, you got to beat the competition. What if instead we pause to stop, think, and reflect? According to Dr. Joseph, that may be your greatest leadership move. Today, she's going to be speaking directly to me when she explains why having too many ideas isn't a flaw, it's a signal, and how clarity can go a long way. Welcome, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you, Nanette. Hello, everyone. I'm very much excited to be here today to present to you my presentation on reflection as I'm looking. I don't see my slides. Am I supposed to show my slides? I don't see my, oh, there they go. Okay.
Yep, there they go.
All right. Yes, I'm very excited today to be here to present to all of you my talk on reflection as a leadership advantage for innovation. So there was a time in my life when I was 15 years into teaching. I worked at a school that had an amazing innovation lab, makerspace. We had all the tools. We had laser cutters, 3D printers, sewing materials, prototyping materials, electronics, you name it. We had the tools to help students bring their ideas to life. At my second year in this school, I realized, though, that I, as a creative individual, was not doing the very thing that I was teaching my students to do. I was not bringing my passions. I was not bringing my creativity. I was bringing my creativity in the curriculum I was designing, but I wasn't making anything in this fabulous space that I was a part of. You know, sometimes as leaders, we push our passions down for the good of our organization, of our jobs, and we don't tap into that spark, creative spark that we have, that we know exists in what we desire to do. Have you ever, as a leader, felt stuck, overwhelmed, overburdened by the many ideas that you have, but don't have an avenue to push them through? That's where reflection comes in. So if we're going to look at reflection as a leadership advantage for innovation, I want to break down two specific words in this title. The first is reflection. The second, innovation. So let's start with reflection. Reflection requires some serious thought or consideration. This is me as a young child. I try to work it into every presentation that I do because it's about curiosity. It's about spark. It's about reflecting on where I am, the place that surrounds me, and what I want to do next. So this little girl, I want all of you to tap into your inner student right now. Later on, I'm going to be doing some interactive activities with all of you. So get ready, have a pen and paper, somewhere to take notes along the way, but hold on to that. So reflection can take on many forms. For me, daydreaming is one form. I daydream looking out the window. I might daydream when I'm in a session and I'm learning and thinking about what are the possibilities? What are all the things that I could do next? I daydream when I'm doing my morning walks. Sometimes I just like to sit for a moment and watch the paint dry on the wall, literally. Reflection can take on the form of journaling. I am both a left and right brain person. I love to doodle. my thoughts, but I also, if you knew me really well, you would know that I do not go anywhere without my trusty journal and pens, because although I'm a technologist, pen and paper are the way I reflect best. Reflection can come to you through conversation. I reflect a lot through conversations, the conversations I have with people through speaking, the conversations I have with students when I'm teaching, the conversations I might have on a stage, leading a fireside chat or a panel conversation. Conversation is the way that we can think through our thoughts and reflect them out to the world and others. My favorite mode of reflection, though, is play. As adults, sometimes we do not think of play and creativity as something that we should prioritize in our lives because it's that afterthought. We're so busy grinding and getting through our day to day that play is something that we forget about. And I like to play in a lot of different ways. I would love for you all to drop in the chat some of the ways that you love to play. I like to paint, do photography, um, dance, listen to music. There are many modes that we can have and bring play into our life. So now let's talk a little bit about innovation. Innovation, if we look it up in the dictionary, it's described as a new idea or method, or the use of new ideas or methods. So I'm going to break this down into a couple of ways. Oh, I love it. Writing music, horseback riding. I get excited by hearing all the ways that people like to play. So I'm going to tell you a short story. This is a group of 6 Latinx girls that I had the pleasure of teaching and working through an idea with. These students were from, at a time, a small town of 5,000 on the border of Texas and Mexico, Los Fresnos, Texas, and they had an idea. They had an idea that won them an award to have a coach come teach them how to create a mobile app and bring that idea to life. Their idea was to help their classmate navigate the halls, their visually impaired classmate, better navigate the halls of their schools. This visually impaired classmate would have to go in a month before school started just to get the lay of the land of how to navigate through school. So innovation comes with 2 pieces. One is the human aspect. The human brings the ideas, to the surface. So whether those are those great TED ideas that we see on the TEDx stages that are inspiring people to think differently, whether that is your manager or leader inspiring you to do things differently, there's always a human element involved when we talk about innovation. And there is also the technology side of that. So early technologies, writing, technology does not have to be technology as we think of it in modern day terms. It could be writing, it could be the invention of the wheel. All these pieces of technology are the things that combine with the human spirit. And when we take that reflection and that humanity together, we get the sweet spot. And just on a side note, yes, these students, they were such an underdog of a story, that they got invited to the White House Science Fair to present their mobile app to President Obama. I wish I got the invitation to join them, but I'm very proud that they had that opportunity to do so. So here we are at the sweet spot, design thinking. Design thinking is where reflection and innovation meet to bring um, problem solving to you. So design thinking is a human-centered framework for solving problems. If you have a challenge, if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you're looping on all those ideas, design thinking is the framework that you want to lean into. Design thinking is, I'll describe it here as a simple 5-step process. There are 2 schools of thoughts, places where you can look further for more information about design thinking. One is IDEO, which is a Bay Area company that helps companies and organizations think through their ideas and solve their problems. The other is the Stanford D School, which is also out here in the area where I am. And this is the framework that the D School most often teaches people when they're first learning about the thinking framework. So the first stage is to empathize. You want to understand the people that you're designing for, whether that is a customer, your user, people you're managing, people you're leading. But I like to say also for yourself, thinking about yourself, empathizing with yourself. The second stage is to clearly define the problem. Often the first problem that we think is our challenge or our problem isn't really our challenge or problem. And if we dig a little deeper, we will find the problem or challenge that we really should be focusing on. The third is ideate. This is the space I love because this is where you get to bring in that play reflection. You get to creatively brainstorm and come up with solutions to those problems. And then the fourth stage is to prototype, come up with some simple tests. How can you prove that these solutions that you think are a good solution are indeed the solution to the challenge that you're coming at? And then last, you want to take the small tests, try it out, see what happens, and then refine. And maybe you'll start back again with coming up with more solutions and prototyping. And you can come into this framework in many areas. Today, we're going to come in at it through the define stage. So this is where you get your pencil, your paper, your notes for your phone, because you're going to do some work now. All right. So a great design challenge always starts with a design question. So our design question right now for this next 5 minutes is, how might we make space to move one idea forward with clarity and confidence? So we're going to start by defining a point of view statement. That is one way that we can get clear on the problem at hand and try to make sure that that's the problem that we're truly trying to solve. And the framework goes like this. A, and you fill in a detailed user description, needs a way to, what's their need, so as to, and then a surprising insight. I'm going to walk you through this process right now. So let's start with step one. Describe yourself. Who are you when this idea or challenge shows up? So remember at the top there, I have our design focus, our design challenge question. So we're trying to answer that, come up with the specific problem that we're trying to answer with regard to that problem space. And you want to describe yourself honestly and richly. So I have some examples down there. I'm a burned out creative, a team leader with too many plates spinning in the air. I'm a visionary who has lots of ideas, but I get stuck in logistics and I don't get to put those dreams out into the world. So take a moment, describe yourself, jot that down. Next, what do you need to move forward? What's your core need? We're not coming up with a solution. We had a metaphor when I worked in schools that if your need can be put in a gigantic infinite blender, then it's not a need, it's a solution. So you don't need a calendar, you don't need a better scheduler, you don't need an app. What is your true core need? So some needs might be, I need to focus more on what matters. I need a space that will allow me to think more clearly. I need to figure out how I can break things down so that my employees can better understand what I'm trying to communicate to them. And then the third step, why does this matter? What would meeting this need make possible for you? How is it going to change the needle a little bit? So some possibilities might be to take some confident action. I desire to build something real. I want to tap into my passions. I want to go to work feeling alive every day. Those would be some reasons why it really matters to solve this problem. So let's recap with the full point of view statement. So you have your A and your description, your needs a way to, what your need is, and then fill in your why. And I would love, if people are following along, that you drop your full point of view statements in the chat. So my full point of view statement is, I, a highly multi-passionate professional, needs a way to incorporate creative practice into her workday so as to feel alive in the work that she does on a daily basis. Now, this is a problem I can get behind. This is something I can start coming up with solutions for. This is a way that I can move forward from my stuck place, my place of overwhelm. Al talked about uncertainty and ambiguity. The design thinking process is a great framework for reflecting and relieving some of that anxiousness that we might feel with the problems that we have at hand. So I want to leave you with this statement from Albert Einstein. If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. So it's all about the problem space, figuring out truly what the problem is, and then you can come up with a multitude of solutions to solve that challenge that you're trying to overcome. So lastly, I invite you to continue reflecting with me, to daydream. I'll leave that in your corner. Take a moment sometime today to just sit in quiet and reflect. Often the best times I've had in schools on school trips are when we all sat in quiet in the outdoors and just listened. I invite you to journal. You can grab I have this idea untangler guide that you can grab that will provide you some prompts for journaling. I have a community where play is at the forefront. It's called the Hatchery. And then, of course, if you are a person who likes to reflect in conversation, please connect with me. Thank you.
Good, Abigail. Thank you so much. I really like the design thinking framework. I didn't know we were going to go down that path when we were talking about reflective activity, but that's a really great activity because telling people to reflect is kind of nebulous, right? So if you have kind of a model or a framework that you can follow, that's fabulous. I love that. How do people make time in their busy schedules for reflection? Because I always think that when I first enter in the office, that should be when I do it, because I haven't gotten started on anything yet. You know, I'm like, oh, well, I'll just boot up my computer while I'm doing that. And like, it just doesn't work. I think reflection is amazing. We talked about it in this morning's session about, how you can follow your career progression over time and how much you've learned and how much you've accomplished if you just make a few notes every once in a while. But in reality, how do people do that?
Yeah, reflect it. It's hard to carve out that space, right? We are all busy. We are all have our obligations that are at the forefront of what we are doing on the daily basis. And I find that there's no one right way to reflect. You have to really figure out for yourself how that best works. But I often, when you throw a little accountability behind it, all of a sudden it happens. So for me, I often will find myself reflecting, one, if I have a group that I'm going to, and we are talking about a specific area or problem. That's how I get that reflecting in. Or if I stick it into a routine.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning for me, because I mentioned I love paper, so I take my digital calendar and I write it down on paper. And that's a form of reflection. And on there, I might reflect on some things in that moment. Okay. So I almost think of it as, in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, habit stacking. Put reflection on to something that you love doing already and you are already doing, and add that as an element that you can bring into your day.
That's excellent. I think I have that. I suffer that same problem with meditation.
Yes.
So I have to connect those things too. I guess it's the quiet time. My brain is not quiet. The one thing that does work for me is being out of my element. I feel like even if you got your eyes closed meditating, you're like, oh, I know that thing's over there and I really should take care of that thing. So my friend and I just went to the beach for 4 days and I was reading a book on the beach, but I have to tell you how many notes I wrote in the margins and on the back of chapter titles because I just had that time in that space to Andrea and I are launching a new aspect to the business next month, and just ideas came out of me like crazy. And like where were they hiding?
They were
Because
hiding at the
writing
beach.
down had nothing to do with the book that I was reading. There was entirely different topics. It wasn't like the book was spurring it.
Yes, they were hiding at the beach. Yeah, and I hinted at that because when I worked in schools and I had to go on these outdoor trips with students and everything, the outdoors was the element that I did probably a lot of good reflection, because how can you not when you're, looking at nature?
Yeah, or you're not in sensory overload anymore. It's like, this is it.
Exactly.
Super. Some of my takeaways from Abigail's presentations: if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. I love that. Well, tell me a little bit more about the idea untangler guide, just because that's a really cool word.
Yeah. So this is a guide that I put together to really help people who are stuck in that swirl of ideas, the multitude of ideas, and don't know where to start. And so it is a simple 3-step process where you identify the idea, you connect it to a why, because if you connect it to a why, you're more likely to take action on it, and you bring forward one simple action that you can take on that idea in the moment. Because often the thing that keeps us from starting our ideas is just taking that first step. Once you take that first step, things start to spiral out of control and you're going. But taking that first step can feel very scary, especially when we're talking about it being an ambiguous thing where we don't know what the end result is going to be. That having a little process to get those ideas out is helpful. And so that's what the idea entangler is all about.
Excellent. I love that. For myself, I said, we're launching this new aspect to the business, and the hurdle I finally got over myself was I kept trying to make my to-do list based on what was first. And finally, this past weekend, I'm like, just write down everything that has to be done and figure out the order of it later.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So now I have like 3
Often just
pages of to-dos.
get it all out and
Yeah.
then prioritize.
Yeah, don't worry about it. The reflection part is not the creation part, right? Like, separate them and just reflect on everything that you're thinking, feeling, anxious about, whatever, and then you can go back and organize those thoughts later.
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you so much, Abigail.
Thank you.
Well,